Good evening, nurses. And tonight, I'm gonna share to you my secret sauce on how I pass all the nursing exams, minor or major, that I usually take for my nursing career. And this is just 4 steps, just 4 simple steps that if you follow, then it's gonna make you successful in all your nursing exams. All right. So I've been thinking, I've been a nurse for 15 years, more or less. Yep. And I've been taking a lot of minor and major nursing exams. For example, let's say, let me just write that down. Minor, what do we usually take? NRP, neonatal resuscitation certificate, BLS, of course. It's always required for ER nurses, even med surg nurses or oncology nurses. So I always take that. I always use my 4 step process. BLS, ACLS, your adult cardiac life support certificate. What else? Oh, I almost forgot. I need my pulse also. So I renew that, I think, every 2 years, and I use my 4 step process, and I always pass this. What else? What minor certificates or exams do I take? Okay. Um, oh, let me see. My TNCC. I'm also TNCC certified. So when you work in an ER which has like trauma rooms, they require you a TNCC certificate. This is for trauma nursing certificate. And on my hospital, when I work in the border, um, they won't allow you to take trauma rooms or trauma patients if you are not TNCC certified. So same thing. I still use my 4 step process to passing all nursing exams, guys, and I've been successful in taking this and passing TNCC. What else? When I was a flight nurse, I have to have this certificate, PHTLS. That's the pre-hospital trauma certificate that I have. You go into the class, and then they let you take a test, and if you pass, then they give you a certificate also for that. I think that's it for minor nursing certificates and exams. Major, guys, been taking also major exams that I've took before, and I'm still um, okay. Major. Um if you haven't know yet, I was a registered respiratory therapist in the Philippines before I became a nurse. So I took my certification. No, my licensure exam in the Philippines. So I'm a registered respiratory therapist in the Philippines also. So that's a for me that's a major exam, and I still use the 4 step process. Um, of course, I took my licensure in the Philippines. Okay, so it's like the NCLEX RN here in the U.S. So my I'm a registered nurse also in the Philippines. What else? So that's my in the Philippines. That's one major exam right there. Uh, After that, I need to take my CGFNS, guys. CGFNS. So CGFNS, it's like NCLEX, but you're gonna be tested. It's like a pencil and a paper test. they gave you like I think you need to answer like 250 questions. That's a lot of nursing questions there. These are for foreign nurses, so it's like an NCLEX exam for foreign nurses. So I took that also, and of course after CGFNS, for me to practice here in the US, I have to take my NCLEX. My NCLEX RN. All right, and I took that and I passed that using my my simple four-step process, guys. NCLEX RN, took that also. IELTS. IELTS is an English exam, so it's like an English proficiency exam, and I passed that also. Um, that's not a nursing exam though, but it's an English exam. For me, that's a major exam. I promise you, that was too hard. Um, Oh, for my minor, I also took my uh, EMTB certificate. I have an EMTB certificate, guys. So I went to the class for free, sponsored by my company when I was a flight nurse before. They offered this, and so I took it. I took the test and I passed, and now I'm an EMT also. What else major? Okay, my CEN. Let's not forget my CEN also. CEN is certification for um, emergency room nurses. So for me, this actually it's feels like I was taking my NCLEX also, because you would be tested on anything, anything underneath the sun, guys. Um, because in the ER we accept, pediatric, neonatal, whatever comes in, OBGYN, trauma patients, car- cardiac, respiratory, everybody. We welcome them in the ER. So we are tested on all those concepts, and God has been so good, and I use my four step process, and I passed my CEN also. All right, so those were the exams that I took, and I passed using this simple process, guys. So if you want, it's gonna be like a longer than the usual video that I do. If you want, you can take notes also, guys. Um, Nurses and aspiring nurses also, you can take notes from this. If you're gonna take your NCLEX, if you failed your NCLEX, and you're gonna take it the second time, maybe this is the secret sauce also that you need in order to pass your exam, or whatever nursing exam you're gonna be taking, guys, or certification. Um, then maybe, just maybe, you wanna take notes. All right. So let's start with, I said four steps, right? So the first one would be the planning. Always remember, nurses, if you don't plan, then you already failed. Once again, let me say it again. If you don't plan, then you already failed. So if you're taking an exam, if you're planning to take an exam, if you failed and you're gonna take it again, maybe you forgot to plan. That's very important. Planning, guys. All right. So planning. Plan for like your finances. You plan for that. Let us say you took your NCLEX, for example. You took your NCLEX, you failed, and now you need to plan for how to save in order to retake the NCLEX. So you have to plan that out, guys. That's very important. Time also. If you have been working, and like me personally, I'm planning to take my CCRN as soon as I get my 6 months of working um, in my new hospital, now I'm gonna be allowed to take my CCRN. So I'm planning ahead of time. I am actually making my own calendar, and hopefully that would push through, and I would get I would be successful on my CCRN. I'm gonna use again my a simple four-step process in doing that. So I'm planning to, because I'm very busy, guys. Uh, I'm an oncology nurse. That's my regular job. And for my PRN job, I work as an ER nurse, and I've just started also as a wound care nurse. So I'm planning to set aside time, most probably minimize other things that I do, and focus on my study. I'm planning to give like 1 hour per day, even if I'm working. So when I get home, I eat dinner. I usually just work day shift, guys. So uh, after coming from work, rest, eat, and then study for an hour. And that 1 hour would just build up, and you would gain knowledge from that. So that's my plan. That's my plan. It's not fixed yet, but that's my plan. That's my plan. Um, Second, so first is planning. Plan everything. Okay, your budget. How would you save for that exam, and then after that, plan for the time that you're gonna use. Because nowadays, time is a luxury, right? Um, if you have extra time, that's a luxury, right? So you have to plan way ahead. All right. So planning. Second, second is research. This is the second process. I'm just trying to make the video short, but you'll get it. You'll get it. So planning, research. So research. If you're gonna take, sorry, NCLEX or CEN or CCRN or any certification, TNCC or something like that, then you have to research about the exam, about how many questions does this is exam, um, how many questions do they test you on this exam, how would they score you on this exam, like for example, NCLEX. NCLEX, you have to have like bundles of right answers, and that's considered as your score, right? So you have to make bundles of right answers, and then they would give you your score. So say um, as an elaboration, um, when I was taking my NCLEX, I was given when I started at most probably like 1 to 15, all the questions were like getting harder and getting harder and getting harder, and then sometimes I would get easy questions. Now I already know that NCLEX would be giving me, right before I took NCLEX, I already know that based on my research about NCLEX, I already know that I would be given easy questions first, and then if I answered that right, then they're gonna give me a harder question, and then a harder, way more difficult question, and then if I have those bundle of correct answers, then that's gonna be a credit towards me. All right. So I was answering questions. I was like, okay, it's getting harder. Okay, the next question is more difficult than my couple of answers a while back. So instead of of getting anxious, guys, I was getting more excited on answering my NCLEX questions because I know if it gets harder, I am getting the right answers to those questions. So I was getting more excited. Okay, now this is now right. This is getting more difficult. So I'm more excited, and so I passed my NCLEX at 75. 75, I passed my NCLEX. As another example of good research, guys, is when I take my CGFNS the second time. Actually, I failed my CGFNS the first time, guys, and that's the only nursing exam that I failed in my entire nursing career, because after I failed my CGFNS, I made sure, I told myself that I have to research, I have to know how to take how to attack nursing exams, how to study for exams, and I was just all out. I gave my 110%, and every time I have my an exam, a nursing exam, I do my research really good. So during my CGFNS exam is as what I have told you earlier. It's a paper and pencil test. So, and it's a 250 question test. So if you did not practice your questions, then most probably you would run out of gas, and you would be like at maybe 150, 200, you'll be like, oh my god, I'm just gonna answer this, I'm just gonna shade my answers, and that's it, and then you're gonna fail, right? But every day, or what I did was, on my second take on my CGFNS exam, what I did was I practiced myself in answering 100 questions per day. And then 2 weeks, I think, prior to the CGFNS exam, I answer like 250 questions per day. And so when I took my CGFNS, all throughout, from 100 to 250 on my exam day, I just run through them like really easy. I was not anxious. I feel great, and I feel confident because I've been practicing 250 questions for a week prior to the given exam. So, as an example for research, that's how I do it. All right. So, the third process. The third process is how to study. Or let's just say study. Study. All right. Oh, I'll just move here. All right. How to study. That's very important. First, I wanted to point out that there's like, based on what I know, maybe you can correct me on this one, but based on what I know, there's like four. Yeah, three. Let's just start with three. So there's three types of learners, guys. One would be a visual learner, a visual nurse. Let's just say nurse. So a visual nurse would be, he or she needs to look at like or read books. Say she has to read books in order for her to learn faster and to absorb the knowledge faster also. So reading, watching videos, maybe YouTube videos. That's her way of, that's the fastest way for that visual nurse to learn. All right. Second type of learner would be audio, the audio learner or the listener. So they absorb the knowledge fast when they listen to it. Like you buy an audiobook, and this type of learners, they learn from it really fast rather than just watching videos. Okay, so they have to listen to it and they learn really fast. And the third one is the uh, I call them the feel learners. Feel. They feel. So this type of learners, they write down keywords, they write down what they hear, they write down what they read, like keynotes or keywords, and then that's how they study. The more they write, and the more they learn. So that's another type of learner. And I think the fourth would be a combination of the four, of the three. Sorry, the three types of learners. Okay, all right. So let's go back to that again as a review: visual, audio, and the feel type of learner. Okay, all right. Next, on the study part, I highly recommend, and this is what I do also. I just use one reference or one book. If you use ATI books for your NCLEX review, then just use that. Just one. If you use Mosby or what else, Lippincott, then just use one. And what I usually do and what I usually encourage is for you to read that book twice. Read it twice, minimum twice. All right, you can go three or four. It depends on how much time you have before your exam. So any exam, CEN, CCRN, any other exams. Okay, so just one reference, and then you read it twice, minimum of twice. All right, of two times. All right, and then after that, then we go to one of the important parts of studying is answering questions, and you do your rationale also at the same time. So you answer questions, and then you also make rationalization about the answer on that question. Okay, all right. And what else? Schedule. All right. Next is this is very important. This pertains to planning, guys. All right. So nurses, you have to schedule your time. Um, Personally, what I usually do is when I study, I place it on I print out a blank calendar, and if I would give myself just 1 month to study, because I have already registered for the exam, then I would plan for a month, a calendar month of study. So for example, on the first week, so I usually work every day, and so I'm gonna give like an hour a day to read my one reference. Okay, and going back to that, why do I suggest just one book? Because if you have several books, then actually that would cause anxiety, especially if you already scheduled your exam. Like for example, after a month you'll be taking the exam because you already registered for it. Then you would have no time to read all those references. So just stick to one, and then just hide the other books, guys. So that's what I highly recommend. And then when you finish reading the book from page 1 to the last page, you would feel more confident also, because now you have the knowledge. And then what you can do is you read more. Let's say for let's say for 1 month, the first week, all you are gonna do is just read the book. That's it. 1 hour to 2 hours a day of just reading the book. And then if you so that's how you do it. And then on the second week, then you can, let's say I'm really bad with OBGYN patients, so maybe I would study more on the OBGYN concept, right? Because I'm not really good with OBGYN. All right, and pediatrics also, and calculations also. I'm really bad at those concepts, guys. Pathophysiology, I think I can survive, but oh my god, peds, OB, EKG. So if those topics, or if those topics are really hard for you, then try to give more time on studying on those topics. All right, and then maybe on the third week you'll do answering questions. So maybe on the first day, with rationale. Okay, so on the first day you would do like 50 questions, and then after 50 questions, you go through and rationalize. Okay, all right. That's how I usually do it. All right. Okay. So, oh, and yeah, let me show you my. This is very old. I'm planning to buy a new one. This is my digital voice recorder. So what I usually do is I record my voice when I'm reading my book, because I sometimes I read aloud. Excuse me, because I retain more knowledge when I do that. So digital recorders, a plus. All right. So let me just recap on the study part, because this is how I personally, this is how I do it. Okay. So I usually combine all the learners, um, the type of learning. Sorry, I usually do visual. So what I usually do is I buy like whiteboards, or I buy Manila paper, and then I'm gonna write on the Manila paper. For example, I'm gonna write, because I'm bad at memorizing lab results, like the usual range, a normal range for your lab results, CBCs and chemistries, and I'm really bad with that. So what I usually do, I write it on a whiteboard, or I write it in a Manila paper, and then I'm gonna post it somewhere where I can see it every day. Like for example, I usually place one on the bathroom door. All right. So every time I'm gonna get up every morning and I'm gonna go to the restroom to pee, before I open it, I would see my normal lab results there. And I'll be like, okay, potassium is this, sodium is this, WBC, hemoglobin, the normal would be this. Okay, these are my ABG normal values. So I place it there. And then I'm gonna go inside and I'm gonna pee. Alright? And then after I finish using the restroom, then I'm gonna go back again to the Manila paper, and then okay, alright, I'm gonna run through it. Okay, alright. Now during the exams, nurses, when I forget because most of the time they would, the exam questions would reflect normal values, and then if you don't know if that value is abnormal or normal, then you're screwed. You won't be able to answer the question correctly, right? So if I forget about my ABG normal values, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna visualize. And I'm gonna see my bathroom door, And now I would be able to remember or see visually my normal values for my ABG. And that works for me. Hopefully that works for you guys. So, yep, that's how I do it. So audio, as what I have told you, I have a digital voice recorder. So what I usually do is I read my books, I read my book aloud, and then I record it. Okay? Or if I'm uh, if I'm answering questions, get after I answer my questions, I I read it aloud, and then I also read my the rationale aloud. So now when I'm traveling, because I usually I travel to work like 30 minutes, or no, 20 to 30 minutes every day. So imagine that. You could study for 20 or 30 minutes a day while driving, listening to your voice recorder, and then you would gain more knowledge and you would be more prepared for your exam, for any nursing exam. All right. Okay. So hope you write that down. All right. And C is the feel part. So if I'm reading a book, I always write my keywords, or I always write my keynotes. Like for example, um, okay, so you give, sorry, all right, so we give blood for trauma patients instead of giving um, vasopressors, because we don't give vasopressors to trauma patients who are actively bleeding, guys. So I'm gonna write that down, so I'm gonna remember it, so when after studying, all right, before I sleep, or when I have like a break at when I'm taking a break at my job, so I'm gonna be reading just the keynotes. I'll be reading the keynotes, and that would also increase my learning experience, and I'll be able to answer questions using those keynotes also. So that's how I use my the visual, the audio, and the feel type of learning. So that's how I do it. I combined it, and I watch a lot of YouTube videos, any free videos in the internet, guys. So that's how I do it. All right, okay. Um, what else did I miss? Ta ta ta. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna I'm gonna make some videos on how to pass specifically just the NCLEX, I think, and how I passed my CEN certification exam in just 3 days. That's gonna be a very good story, guys. I'm gonna tell you the backstory and how I overcome my CEN, and how I took my CEN exam in and I prepared for 3 days. All right, and watch out for that video also. That's gonna be fun. Um, and lastly, fourth, let's place it here. The next step would be rest. Always remember to rest. Okay, so what I usually do personally, and I highly recommend this. Okay, 3 days before the exam, if you're really short on time and you wanted to cramp everything up because you haven't been studying, just give it like 2 days. 2 days. 2 days of rest. But I highly suggest three. All right, that's what I do. Okay, so 3 days prior to the exam. What I usually do is, because I love movies, I would set everything aside, all my books, all my resources, all my Manila papers, all my audio, books, I'll set that aside and I have 3 days to rest. What I usually do is I watch movies. I go to the movie house. I watch movies. I come home. I watch, whatever movies, or I watch basketball, NBA, because I love basketball. Um I take my kids, my wife to the park, to the beach. Oh my God, that's my uh, uh, what do you call this? My holy place, the beach. Um, and contemplate, and never ever touch your review materials, because if you're gonna do that, this is what's gonna happen. All right, I've tried that before in other exams also. You're gonna try and answer question like a day before the exam or 2 days before the exam, and then you, let's say you try 5 or 10 questions, and these questions you have already answered this before, and you would be amazed. You'll forget all your correct answers, and you would answer that wrong, and then your anxiety goes up, because you'll be like, oh, I've answered this before, but now I'm all my answers are incorrect. So if you decide to rest, all right, because this is very important, for 3 days, don't open any review books, don't answer review questions, don't listen to your audiobook, and just rest. Your body needs it, all right, so that you can endure on your exam day. All right, you would wake up, refreshed. You have you'll be confident. You'll be physically and mentally prepared for your exam day. All right, so I highly suggest, and this, I think this would be the most important part also, is the rest. All right, so I think that's it, guys. It's getting late and I have to work tomorrow. So that's it. If you have questions at all, please send me a message on my FB page, and please don't forget to share this to other nurses also, or to aspiring nurses. If you have relatives, if you have a brother or sister who's going into nursing school, please share this video, share my page. All right, if you have like coworkers who's gonna take exams, or um, this FB page of mine is for everybody, for all nurses, aspiring nurses, student nurses, new nurses, experienced nurses, and yeah, and I think that's it. All right. So see you next time. Angels in the sick room. Good night.